So now I'm going to prepare my shoulder strap, and I wanted to point out that you can really make the strap however you'd like. I wanted mine to be wider. I know it's going to be cut in half, or folded in half rather. And so I'm interested in making my strap actually double, because if the strap is only going to be half this, I think it would look really cool to have a wider strap. I'm going to try it. So if you want to adjust the width, you're just going to draw it out, and it does have a point here, so we want to follow the pointed edge, and going to, I'll just go straight across, that's okay too. I'm just going to adjust it. Definitely measure, I just kind of roughly sketched it out, but I'm gonna say I'm gonna add 2 inches. So I'm almost there. A little skinny up here to mine, and it says cut 2, so I'm going to then cut it so I have a strap for each side. Now, after that, like I said, we have to fold it in half and sew it. So I'll go ahead and show you that step. Staying organized, remember, throw away these little tiny scraps, and if you have bigger scraps, you can save those. So I know the first step is to take my straps, and mine are much wider, remember, and fold them in half like so, and I'm going to pin it and then sew them. They are inside out, that's correct, because we're going to flip them. So I'm going to do that for both of them, and then okay, the directions say to sew this at 3/8 inch. So if the tape is 5/8, this is 4/8, this is 3/8. So it's just a hair past the edge of the presser foot, and it's really up to you. If you want your strap to be wider or narrower, that's okay. If you had sewn this at a deeper seam allowance though, you would want to trim it down when you're finished so that it's not so bulky when you flip it. So back stitch, here's my strap, and then before we flip it, you should press the seam open too, so that it's nice and flat. So I'll repeat this and then go ahead and press it open and then flip it. And the pressing will just really help it to lay flatter and look nicer when we flip it. Okay, so let's go do that. So I'm kind of positioning my strap so that the seam is in the middle, and then I'm going to make it nice and flat and apply that seam so that it lays really nice, even though it's inside out. And next, we're going to flip it. So you will probably need a safety pin to flip yours. Mine's a little wider, so it's not that difficult. And then once you get it flipped all the way, then you're going to line that seam up again in the middle and give it a nice press so that it's really flat and straight. So there's one strap, looks pretty straight, and then I'll do the same for them. So now it's time to attach the straps, and the directions say to line up your straps where the small dots were on your bodice front and your bodice back. So if I look, I'm a size 14, here is that dot, and you can just poke a hole through and then use your marking pencil to transfer that dot just by making a dot with the pencil where that pin hit. So it's really about 5/8 inch from the edge. And then I'm going to do the same thing over here. I kind of just flipped it. You could definitely and should have probably done this in the very beginning when your fabric was still, had just been cut. But it's just important that you have these markings and you know where you're lining so that the dress turns out. So then on the back, it's really the same thing. If I look at the back pattern piece, it's just a hair down from the edge. So you could definitely measure as well. And on this one, it's showing the dot is just a little ways in. I'm making that mark. And then same thing over on the other side, make the mark. You just want to make sure you're getting it lined up. So the dot has been transferred, and then you're actually going to turn your outfit, your shirt or dress, like this. So this is my side seam. You can kind of see my dart right here. And then you're going to place the strap upside down. So it's going to go like here to here. And I'm lining it up. I'll show you the picture of the directions so that there's a little bit of area on either side, here and here. And then we're gonna pin in place. And again, my strap is really wide, so we'll see how this looks. Actually, I need to flip it. You want your right sides together, so I put my seam side facing up because when it gets sewn, you know, it's upside down right now. It looks backwards, but then it will flip and it will look like this. Okay, so that's that side. And then we want to make sure we do the same thing on the other side. And my seam is facing up. My edges here are even because that's where we're going to end up sewing. And it says to baste across. That just means sew it with a bigger stitch so that if we need to adjust it, we can take it out easier. So let me just measure this amount. Yep, it's right at 5/8 inch. So you could just measure down rather than transferring the dots if that's easier. So then we're ready to sew. Okay, so I'm just going to baste. So I turn this to a 5. I always backstitch. I know it's not necessary when you're basting, but it's just a habit, really. And we're doing this at 5/8 inch. That's fine. See, that time I didn't backstitch. And trimming up your threads, and then we'll repeat that. And I'm just sewing flush with the edge of my fabric. So lining that up. There, I did it again. And then repeat that on your other side, and you will have attached your strap.